Hi, I am Ashley Jones, and I'm the host of the Calm and Courageous podcast. In 2018, I gave birth to my second son, Elijah, and he is deaf. We also have Isla, who has a similar hearing loss. I looked around and I didn't know many families who were dealing with the same circumstance, and I decided to create the Calm and Courageous podcast. I've had the honor of interviewing mothers, caregivers, educators who are living with disability or are raising children who have disability or different diagnosis. I hope that you tune in to each episode so we can shine a light on ableism and celebrate disability pride together.
Hi, Angelina, and welcome to the Calm and Courageous podcast, a parent's guide to powerful allyship in raising children with disabilities. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yay! I'm going to read your bio and then we'll just jump right in. Angelina Myers is a parent advocate and leader with Arkansas Hands and Voices, and the proud mom of two deaf and hard of hearing twin teens. Passionate about supporting families on their journey, Angelina works to connect parents, professionals, and communities with resources, encouragement, and real life support. Through both lived experience and advocacy, she shares honest insight on raising children who are DHH and navigating communication, education choices, and helping families feel empowered and connected. Thank you so much for being here. I've been wanting to meet with you for months now, and finally, as two very busy moms, we were able to sneak this in for the month of May. And I wanted to, interview you because I wanted, Mother's Day is in May.
Yes.
Yes, and I wanted to interview a mom that I looked up to and someone that is a leader in Hands and Voices. And I've said this before on the podcast, but Hands and Voices is a nonprofit parent-led organization that supports families raising DHH children. And this is how I met Angelina. She is a leader in the organization and she is a mentor to me. And she has teens, and I'm not there yet. I'll be there before you know it with my
Yes, it
DHH.
goes quick.
I know, I know. And so having your support and advice means a lot to me. So can you tell us a little bit about what it was like? Just tell us a little bit about your family and what that journey has been, uh, discovering you had two children who were DHH.
Yes. So my twins, Austin and Braden, they were late diagnosed with hearing loss. They were diagnosed at 2.5 years old. We went through, all the things where, your parent gut is just telling you that something's not quite right. But hearing loss was not on our radar. We had no clue that that's what it would be. We met with our pediatrician, and because they're twins and they were doing babbling, he's like, "Well, maybe they're just developing twin speech.
Mhm.
Let's see how it goes." By their second birthday, he's like, "Okay, there's definitely something going on." And he referred us to speech pathology for speech and language evaluations. And their first protocol is a hearing screening.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes. And so that is what kicked off our journey. So, hearing screening, they both failed. And we're like, what is happening? And then we were referred to our local children's hospital, and they did the ABR testing, full diagnostics. And they told us that my son, my older twin, Austin, he had mild to moderate hearing loss bilaterally. And my younger twin, Braden, he had profound hearing loss bilaterally. And we went through the whole emotional rigmarole. We're like, in
Or
denial of it. Like, how can he be profoundly deaf? My husband, he was like, he responds to us. Like, when we say his name, he responds. When he's sleeping on the couch and we're getting his attention, he'll wake up. And so we were just like trying to process this and we're like, can this even be true? Like questioning all the things, like, how
Sure.
did we not know? What does this even mean? And so as we learned more and we were partnered with amazing professionals that kind of just took us under their wing and really helped us through navigating those early months and years. And we were paired with a fantastic language hearing specialist that works day in, day out with children with hearing health needs. And she really helped us. I tell her all the time, I was like, I really think that you made me a better parent just with our partnership. And it really shaped how we approached things going forward because going through that denial process, we're like, how can this be? And then learning about, one, the other senses. Obviously, Braden is more in tuned with his other senses because he's impaired with hearing. And so learning that just being closer to him,
Mhm.
it changed how his environment felt, and that's probably how he woke up
Mhm.
while he's sleeping on the couch. And so as we're educated in those things, we understand more and we can make better choices for our children. And then as they get older, we loop them in and they're making choices and advocating for themselves. And it's just a full circle moment. And really, as you approach anything in life, right? It's all navigating and understanding and learning, and you're just absorbing all of these things. And as you encounter more tools, because there are so many in
Gosh,
the world, right? And as you're using them, if they're not working, it's okay. Throughout those tools, there's another one waiting for you. And
good.
yes. And so as parents, we're just navigating all of these things and helping our children navigate them.
If you just answered the question, I was gonna say, you know, looking back, what do you wish someone had told you? But it sort of sounds like you're saying you just you pick up new tools, you put down tools, and you just keep
Mhm.
learning as you go, essentially. Is
Yes,
that what you're saying? Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. And looking back, in that moment, in the moments that where we're making all of these really hard decisions, because so for Braden, he uses cochlear implants now. And so going through that process of, is this the right choice for him?
Right.
What do we do? Which brand do we go with? All of those questions on we're making a choice for the long term. And in those moments, we're like, oh, just tell us what to do. Just tell us what the right answer is.
I know.
And the thing is that there's not one right answer. And so being told, having parents say, just tell me what to do, that's not really when they say, no, I can't do that, it's true
Yeah.
because you have to make those choices. It has to be right for your child. And now I just always say, whatever choice you make, it's going to be a great choice, but there's work involved in it.
For choice. That's the
Yeah.
answer.
Yes. And I feel like that was the thing that really helped us on our journey was that it was our professionals were very transparent with that. It's going to be work. You're going to have to put in time to make it successful to use these tools. You have to work on them. And they were there to support us.
Oh,
They didn't abandon us after that appointment. They're like, email us if you need to, call us if you need to. We're here for your questions.
so
And
great.
so, yes, I fully believe we can do really hard things when we're supported.
Oh, I agree. I always say, they say like it's like 80% of 20% of what happens to you and then 80% of how you handle it. But
Mm.
I think that there's also a large percentage of who you have around you, right?
Mm.
Like if you have a good, I think so much of what has made parenting children who are hard of hearing, um, that's taken some of that load is having a strong community around us. Although we don't have a lot of family, we have a great church community, and they've just been so supportive of us. Just even at church, just making sure our kids have the proper support during Sunday school. That goes a long way.
It
So when I'm in
does.
service, it relieves that anxiety of like, are they going to be okay without me? Um, and so, yes, you're right. Having a proper team. And one of the things I love that you say this because I remember I was a preschool teacher for years before I became a mom. I always knew in my gut that the best way to support a family was not to project your opinions and thoughts and judgments onto a family. Rather say, this is what we are observing. This was our experience in the past, and here are your options. And
Yes.
when I had that, and although I did want someone to just say, do this or that, I'm so glad that no one ever made me feel like I was making the wrong choice, but rather, how do we support you with your choice? And it's one of the reasons why I really love Hands and Voices is
Mm.
that we support families without bias, and it just feels right.
Mhm.
And as a parent, you are so vulnerable. You are insecure. You do love your child. You want to give them what's right. But like you say, it's about making the choice of what you're going to do and doing the work. With your boys, two boys, right?
Yes.
What mode of communication has your family chosen to use?
So we do listed and spoken language, but we're also incorporating American Sign Language as well.
And when you first got the diagnosis, did you say, we're going to do listening and spoken language and then later go, oh, we're gonna add in some sign? How did that evolve over time?
So for us, it was definitely we didn't sit and think, okay, what are we going to use primarily? It was kind of like, okay, what are our options? What do we need to do? What can we do? We knew that we wanted them to develop speech, and with the profound hearing loss that Braden has, our professionals encouraged us to really focus on that because he was going to be much more in tuned with visual language. And so we really went all in for that listening and spoken language and developed. And then when we were at a comfortable point of he's developing speech and he's doing good, then we started incorporating a second language.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I love that. And it's when you first get the diagnosis, you don't know
Yeah.
what you should do. And when you're reading the literature and you're learning, you will hear professionals say, listening and spoken language, don't use American Sign Language. And then in the deaf culture, you'll hear a lot of, well, listening and spoken language can have felt traumatic to me as a child. I felt like I wasn't accessing it and I would get in trouble. You hear all these horror stories. And so they'll say only use sign language at home so that they always have access to communication. So you never know what you're doing. And then it's also tricky when you have hard of hearing children because
Yeah.
they're picking up, they're not completely deaf but they're not completely hearing. And so you don't know what choice. And so one of the things that I'm really happy to see, and it may never be perfect, but you are seeing both sides now that we are progressing in society, that you're seeing more of the deaf community and the DHH or hard of hearing community say, okay, let's do both. Let's do what works for your home. Okay. Whatever you can do to make sure your child has access to communication, let's do that. We don't have to be so strict either way or hard nosed. And of course, there'll always be those sides, but you are seeing it bridge. And the beauty, I think, of that is Most people don't know this, but 90 to 95% of deaf children are born to hearing parents,
Hmm.
which means their first language will be spoken language, no matter how hard a parent tries to use American Sign Language in the home. My first language is English, it's spoken language, and I it's gonna be a mix of it all. It's gonna be its own thing. It's its own thing than rather a deaf mother and father raising deaf children. That's a whole nother experience. And it's or a coda, a child
Yeah.
who's being raised by deaf parents who happens to be hearing. Those are this is so it's vastly different. And so leaving room for people to build their families and communicate with one another in a healthy way, in a way where the child feels seen and accepted. That was the biggest thing for me. And I think for me, I grew up in such an ableist society. I think we all did, right? I mean, we saw disability as and some people will not call deafness or hearing loss a disability. I choose to, and one of the reasons why I do is because I wanted to own this word and not have a stigma or a shame around it. I was afraid that if we didn't call it disability, then my children would feel like this is something they had to pretend wasn't happening, or they had to assimilate in the hearing world and pretend and conform. And I wanted them to be deaf and hard of hearing in a hearing world with pride and have confidence to say, hey, I need accessibility. I need an accommodation right now. And by calling it a disability, I hope that that would empower them. But I had to come to terms with that because I had been conditioned to view it as this terrible thing that has happened
Right.
rather than just another part of diversity. This is a different part of how my child is experiencing the world. They do
Yes.
not have this ability to hear in a typical way. And that is okay. That is how God, and I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. And so I say, hey, this is how God made you, and this is how He's going to use you. And we're proud of that. And I always want my kids to feel that way.
Absolutely.
What are ways that you and your spouse or your family work to make sure your children feel seen and connected in your home?
So for it's really kind of funny. So they're kind of bookend. So they have an older brother and then a younger sister, and the older brother and the younger sister are hearing.
Okay.
And when we're navigating things and we're really navigating their hearing and the devices and all the things, we really just talked about it. I feel like communication and
Yeah.
calling it out is so important. And so we talked about what the devices were used for, why we had to have them, why, Alexander, my older son, didn't have them. And then when my daughter came along, she wanted to know why she didn't have hearing aids. She's like,
Yeah.
why don't I have one? I want one, because her cool older brothers have them.
Yeah.
And so when we really just talk about them and just say, these are tools that they need so that they can hear, um, just like you. And when we call it out and there's no shame in it, it's just matter of fact. This is what you need to hear. And just like Alexander needs glasses to see, these are just tools that we're using to make an accommodation for something that you need a little bit of assistance in,
Yeah.
you know? And so when we call it that way and we talk about it and we make sure that everyone, it's so hard, especially when you have multiple children, right? To make everybody feel seen and heard. And so when we go into life with intention
Yeah.
and we keep things to where we give everybody an opportunity to say something or to feel seen, or if we notice, oh, we're quiet, what's going on? Why are you being quiet right now? Are you following the conversation, or are you just kind of like, I'm overwhelmed right now?
Ah, that's
So really talking about it and giving them that space so that if they want to be quiet, they can, But if they're feeling stepped over, okay, well let's navigate this. At what point did you start to feel this way? How can you interject to let everyone else around you know that now I'm feeling in this way? So let's work so that I'm not feeling that way and that everyone has a spot. And bringing awareness to what your needs are and helping them communicate that is so key. And I feel like this is the way just in life. It is so key to be able to communicate how you're feeling so that everyone around you knows, and then you're aware that everyone else around you has feelings too. And then we can fit together and really work to navigate how we feel and how life is going, and we can live and coexist together
I'm
and
really
everyone
glad you
feels
brought this up.
seen.
I'm really glad you brought this up because what you're talking about for DHH people in general is multiple things. Listening fatigue.
Yeah,
I don't think hearing people understand is although someone is aided, they have a cochlear implant or a hearing device, they are not, they're hearing, they hear the sound, but understanding is a lot of work for the brain.
yeah,
And so when a deaf or hard of hearing person is in a space, particularly if it's a large space, if there's multiple people speaking, if someone's behind them, if they can't see them, if they're in another room, they have to work double harder in order to access that information that is being given to them. And
yeah,
so for a deaf and hard of hearing person, if there's a conversation going on, it's very easy for that person to miss something, to for it to sound mumbled, for it not to be clear. And that can feel isolating if your
yeah,
family in particular or friends, classmates, teachers aren't checking in, making sure, okay, did you miss that? Did you not understand that? And then also when you have your hearing aid or your device, everything's amplified. So the
right.
washer's now amplified, the television, the radio, everything is now amplified. And so I'm having to sort through all of these sounds to zone in on this conversation. So what you're saying is you check in with your sons to say, "Oh, I noticed you're quiet right now and we're talking. Did you miss it?" And helping them to build that confidence to say, "Oh, can you say that again?" Or "No, I didn't," or I don't know what's going on, or
Yeah,
that can be hard. Recently,
absolutely.
my 7-year-old, so he was late identified as well. He was also two. Um, he was aided at 2.5, and I had so much grief around that. And it felt like it took him so long to develop his spoken language. And I thought it's only going to be ASL. He recently, this year in October, he was moved to a total communication class. And there's a lot of thoughts about that because some people feel like you need to be all or the other in order for them to gain language. But I promise you, when I tell you he joined this class in October, he's 7. His spoken language, it was like someone flipped on a switch.
Mhm.
He won't stop talking. And now it's just a matter of grammatical errors. And
Right.
oh, let me give you oh, he'll say something and then I'll repeat it back to him in the correct way. And I'll also sign, but he is wanting to share. And so he has a friend because it is a total communication class. It's mixed age group because deafness is a low incidence disability. And I know you know this, Angelina, but I'm saying it for those who are listening. And so to fill a class and to have a class that the county will allocate for, we're going to have multiple kids. You're not going to get a class of 10 deaf first graders. It's going to be, so his class is first through fifth grade. And that's only 10 kids, maybe 13. And so so he's 7. There's a 9-year-old girl in his class who is, I believe this young lady will grow up to be a leader in her community. I believe that she will bring about great change in the world with her strength of personality. But currently, she is using it to not be very kind to
No.
and being bossy. And I don't really like to use those terms when it comes to women because I think sometimes girls can be thought of negatively because of those skills, but currently those skills are not being honed in a proper way with my son. And so I talked with him about it and I said, hey, listen, if she's not being nice, if she's being unkind to you, do not play with her. And you can tell her. And he goes, he's okay. And so I saw him like thinking about it. And he comes back to me and he goes, I don't know how to say it. How do I say it? And so I thought, oh, he doesn't know how to. So I said, and I said her name. If you are not nice to me, I will not play with you. But if you are nice to me, I will play with you. And so over the weekend, we worked on saying this phrase to her. And so he went to school and he said it. And she said, okay, I'm sorry. And they talked about it with their teacher. And it's gonna be, it's just a boundary that he's learning as a, but that was a moment of him having to advocate for himself, but then like having to use the words and not knowing, oh, how do I put this into a sentence? Because hearing individuals, they learn so much language indirectly. With a deaf and hard of hearing child, everything has to be so much more direct. Close,
Yeah.
like you said, getting within his field of hearing in that close with him, reading. And then sometimes even there are things that come up that maybe not there aren't even in a book, but you just talk about in conversation. So I just said a lot, but it's just in regards to what you said. It's like, this is how I stay connected is by checking in to say, well,
Yeah.
how are you doing in these social environments, in these spaces? And what do you need from me?
Yes.
And and also empowering your hearing children as well to build those relationships. And I may be wrong, but sometimes it feels like you may have to work a little harder to bridge because as a mother I have the heart and the empathy to do this sort of checking in with my deaf and hard of hearing child. My hearing kids, their siblings may not, they already bug at each other and frustrate each other because they're siblings. So like I don't want to check in with him like he didn't hear me or because they're not mature. How do you
Right.
how do you navigate that with your older child? How much older is your oldest?
So my oldest, he's only 15 months older than them.
Okay, so what's that
So,
him as a what we would call that is the glass child, right? The child who is typical.
mhm.
And so what is that like for him?
So he is very protective of his siblings.
Oh.
Yes. And so as the oldest, he's taken on this role of I need to make sure that all of my siblings' needs are met
Mm.
and that if there's a squabble between them, I need to be the mediator.
Oh,
And so he's really taken on that role. And we've even, and I loved how you had mentioned boundaries because
mhm.
we've talked about boundaries quite a bit. And even for him, we've had conversations of just saying, yes, you're the older brother, but you have to allow your siblings to interact. And they have to be able to learn conflict resolution.
Yep.
And if they have this built-in mediator, they're not going to learn how to deal with those emotions when they come up. They're just going to rely on you to step in to resolve it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and so we've talked a lot about boundaries my daughter, she is 5 years younger
Okay.
than the twins. And so one, she's the girl, she's the youngest, and there's a large age gap.
Mhm.
And so there's very much that goes into those dynamics because they're expecting her to be at this teenage level and she is not. She's 11. And then she's very much headstrong and stubborn and independent. And all those things that you want your daughter to be going out into the world,
Yeah,
but it can cause those conflicts.
of course.
And talking about we use kind words even though we don't like something, or be we can have a disagreement and it not turn into a yelling match or a
Yeah,
fight. Like we can still be kind to one another and get our points across. So,
that's
really learning those boundaries and learning how to interact with one another is just, it's been a lot of a learning experience, especially this past year
for
with them.
your middles. What are their ages? Your twins?
They are 16.
16. So we only have a few more minutes. I could talk with you forever, but what would you give to parents? Because we hear so much about the toddler years, the
Mhm.
babies, talking to them, reading to them, making sure they have access. And then you even hear more about, okay, my child is going off into the world. How do we get them ready for the job market and what that looks like with self-advocacy? What would you say to parents raising DHH teens? And what words of advice could you give to them?
I would say keeping those lines of communication open because we know as you are transitioning in from adolescence to teens to adulthood, you're going through so many different things and you're encountering new emotions and new experiences. And when things are new, you make mistakes.
Hmm.
And when mom and dad are that home
Yeah.
in that safe space, and that when we're navigating hard situations, or, even how can I talk to the girl at school that's not being kind?
Yeah.
Mom and dad are the ones that can be there. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's learn the language to use when we're evaluating that situation or that emotion. Let's name it. Let's talk about it. And then let's see, okay, how can we work through this?
That's
So
great.
that they're the tools. We're giving them the tools, and that never, I feel like it never ends. I don't know. I've talked to my friends that have adults that they're parenting now, and they just say, it never ends, but sometimes they don't listen.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that never ends, right?
Yeah, yeah, no matter what, hearing or it's you still have
Yeah.
those that overlap, right?
Yes.
So I'm gonna do a rapid fire. I see this on other podcasts and I've never done it before. So
Okay.
favorite family activity.
So we ask questions. We play little games at dinner. And we just buy these random games that have different questions, like what would you take with you to a desert island or whatever. And we'll go around the table and say whatever. My favorite thing. I love that.
I love that. And that builds language as well.
Yes.
One word that describes your voice.
Oh, loving.
Coffee or tea.
Ooh, tea.
And a moment recently that made you proud as a mom.
I would say um, we were at an event with a group of Bible study friends, and the kids, the boys, they have these moments where they're like, I don't really want to talk to people. But they had a friend that was there, and his normal friends weren't attending, and they kind of just went up to him and, introduced, and um they're like, we'll be with you. We'll sit with you. We'll make this time more fun for you as well. And so it's just kind of like, you know, um just kindness.
Yeah,
There, yeah.
can't ask for anything better than that. Angelina, thank you so much for being on the Common Courageous podcast, a parent's guide to powerful allyship in raising children with disabilities. I know in my heart that you helped a lot of families today, and that there's going to be someone beginning this journey feeling nervous, unsure, and they're going to get a lot of hope and inspiration from you. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.